Today on the Daily Bellringer, we're taking a look at the Battle of New Orleans. Hello, welcome to the Daily Bellringer. Please don't forget to check out the questions down in the description. And then also, I'd love to see your answer to question number 5 in the comments below. So, Battle of New Orleans, arguably one of the most famous battles of the War of 1812. But what's interesting is, of course, it takes place after the War of 1812 is officially over. Now, let's take a look at why that happens. War of 1812, you got to remember, of course, the British had landed near Washington, D.C., had burnt the city of Washington, been forced out by the storm. Then they turned their attention towards trying to take Baltimore. They can't get into Baltimore, of course, because of Fort McHenry. Fort McHenry's defended, Star-Spangled Banner's written, all that good stuff. But the British haven't given up yet. They head for New Orleans. All right, now we'll talk about in a moment why they're heading for New Orleans. But while all this stuff is going on, President James Madison had dispatched delegates to Europe to begin to negotiate peace with the British, and they met in Ghent, Belgium. Now, among these delegates that went to Belgium were son of President John Adams, John Quincy Adams is there, and then also Henry Clay, who of course becomes known as the Great Compromiser. But on December 24th, 1814, they signed the Treaty of Ghent, ending the War of 1812. Now, what's interesting is in this treaty, there's no mention of neutral rights at sea. There's also no mention of impressment. If you want to find out about impressment and the causes of the War of 1812, check out one of my other videos. But there's no mention of these big issues, and really what they do in this treaty is that the British basically agree to not interfere with American expansion into the Great Lakes region. And so it's considered a big victory for the Americans, but word of this victory isn't going to reach America for another 2 months. And so in the meantime, the British are moving towards New Orleans. And of course, the reason they're heading for New Orleans is because it sits there at the mouth of the Mississippi River. And they felt if they could capture that, they could cut off the Mississippi from Americans, cut off the whole Louisiana territory. Now, for the British, there's between 11,000 to 14,000 troops that are under the command of this guy named General Sir Edward Pakenham. All right, and he's trying to find an approach to get to New Orleans. And of course, New Orleans, you got to think, sits in southern Louisiana, a lot of swampy area, a lot of water. It's a difficult approach to try to get to New Orleans. All right, now for the United States, for the U.S. troops, we have 47-year-old Andrew Jackson, who is in command there in New Orleans. And he's been there for several weeks preparing defenses around the city. Now, Andrew Jackson, this is where he really makes a name for himself. And speaking of names, this is where he gets his nickname, all right? A lot of his men were frontiersmen from Kentucky and Tennessee, and they knew that the hardest, most durable wood was hickory. And they also knew that Andrew Jackson was pretty tough and pretty hard and pretty durable. And so they began to call him Old Hickory. And that's the name that, of course, sticks with Andrew Jackson throughout the rest of his life, all right? Now, Andrew Jackson has a much smaller force than the British here. He has between 3,500 to around 5,000 men, but he has a very eclectic army. And what I mean by that is an army with a lot of different people under his command. So, like I said, he has these frontiers from Kentucky and Tennessee and Mississippi. He also has a Louisiana militia, but among them too, there's these Bellringer pirates. There's also Choctaw Native American warriors, and there's also free black soldiers among this little army. So it's a very interesting little army that Jackson has here. Now, we're going to focus on, even though there's action that takes place from late December through early January of 1815, we're just going to focus on January 8th of 1815. That's when really the main Battle of New Orleans, you could argue, takes place. All right, so Andrew Jackson gets, warning from this guy, from this pirate named Jean Lafitte, who is a leader of the Bellringer pirates. He gives him a heads up saying, hey, the British are on the move. They're heading for New Orleans, and they're heading from this direction. And so Andrew Jackson begins to build up defenses. And actually what he orders his men to do is they begin to widen what's known as the Rodriguez Canal, and they build about a 1/4 mile long, 8-foot high mound of dirt as an earthworks to basically be a barrier between them and the British. But also they begin to pile up cotton bales as well to be a barrier, all right? And so on January 8th, 7,500 British troops attack the Americans, and they attack in 2 different waves, all right? But within half an hour, this battle is over, all right? And 2 generals are dead, 2 British generals, including Sir Edward Pakenham, gets killed. In the battle, over 2,000 or nearly 2,000 British troops are killed or wounded, compared to only 13 who were killed or wounded for the Americans. So a ridiculously one-sided battle, all right? And this battle makes Andrew Jackson into a hero because he's won this battle so decisively. Now, what's interesting here, and I apologize for being kind of graphic here, but what's interesting is when the British go to begin to collect their killed and wounded on the battlefield, they begin to find that a lot of their soldiers had been shot through the forehead. And this is basically shows what great marksmen or shots these frontiersmen were fighting for the Americans. All right. And so, like I said, the Battle of New Orleans really has no bearing on the War of 1812. The war was already over by the time the battle takes place, but this makes Andrew Jackson into a household name. It, makes him famous and basically leads to him eventually becoming president of the United States. All right, so hopefully you learned something there. Don't forget to answer question number 5 there in the comments below, and thanks for watching.